right, welcome to Harlem Stories. I'm Adam Feinberg, and I am joined today with my co-host Mark Becker.
Great to be here.
Yeah, well, today we've got an interesting topic that doesn't get covered very often. It's kind of hidden, and actually it's meant to be hidden, but some of these things are open in plain sight. And today we're going to talk about the Croton Aqueduct, the visible remnants in Upper Manhattan. So, we're recording this from our recording studio or in not far from Bryant Park. And, for those that know old New York City history, Bryant Park was actually was the reservoir system for the Croton Aqueduct. So the New York Public Library wasn't always the public library building, the way it was. It was always part of that aqueduct system. Anyway, so that, New York City's drinking water is famous throughout the world and supposed to be the reason for our amazing pizza, our bagels, and so much more. But you would have but have you really thought about the infrastructure needed to supply the city with this amazing clean water? That amazing engineering, the water comes from upstate, and it was built more than 100 years ago. We created this aqueduct system to the city almost entirely gravity fed. So, amazingly enough, we didn't really need pumps, or pretty much at all for the most part. It's coming from that upstate, fed by gravity. In pop culture, those that remember the Die Hard movie set in New York City and parts of Westchester, maintenance on the aqueduct was featured prominently in the movie as a location for a fight scene. And it was pretty cool because they were driving dump trucks through the New York City water aqueduct system. So pretty really interesting, way that they dealt with it there. But earlier versions of managing our water system predates the main location for the New York City Public Library System in Bryant Park. This was the Manhattan location for a reservoir from water transferred from the Croton Aqueduct up in Westchester, in Upper Westchester. Over the years, we found different ways to manage our infrastructure. The structures that were used for pumping or storage might not be functional anymore. Whether these locations are functional or not, sometimes the structure might still be in place. So in this episode, we're going to discuss some of the remainders of yesterday that are still present and related to our water infrastructure, specific, obviously, to Upper Manhattan. So first stop over here, we're going to look at the High Bridge and the High Bridge Tower. It's still in existence. Both have been restored. Water originating from the Croton Reservoir made its way south via the Bronx and crossed into Manhattan via the High Bridge.
And there's the High Bridge Park, right?
Yep, and that's located within there. And it's now has a restored pedestrian bridge for High Bridge Park. And for anybody that might have caught Luke Cage on Netflix, there was a fight scene located on that pedestrian bridge. Pretty cool. But once in Manhattan, the water worked its way to the water tower in what is known as High Bridge Park. So since you mentioned that, it was almost on cue. The water tower is 200 feet tall, built in the style of a medieval tower. This was originally a reservoir next to the water tower, which provided water to 90% of the area surfaced. And while the tower provided an additional 10% by creating additional pressure in the elevated structure. The land used for the water tower was once owned by Eliza Jumel, and we've talked about Eliza Jumel before. Eliza tried to sell the land to the city at a discounted price to make the process smoother, but the city wanted an even larger discount. Ultimately, the city did get its lower price through eminent domain about 6 months after Eliza passed away. And the tower is open to the public on occasion, and it's possible to climb to the top. It's already near the highest natural point in Manhattan, and the views from the top are even more amazing. And, when we talk about open to the public, I mean, like last weekend. Wow. So there's an event that's held in typically like the second or third weekend of October of every year called Open House New York. And Open House New York, they open the doors to many buildings. Some are which operated by the city, owned and operated by the city. Others might be, private things. Like I remember one year date, and unfortunately, I never made it there. You know, there's caricatures, mini statues in the 14th Street ACE subway line over there.
I remember that.
You know, those little figures, the cute
They
little.
had the fake manhole covers.
Yeah, the fake man with the alligator head picking, steeping out of that.
Is that still there?
Yeah, I think it's still there. I haven't been in the station in a while.
Son to that.
But that 1 year Open House New York, Tom Otterness, that's who it is. Tom had opened his studio to Open House New York and allowed people to kind of see inside the studio and his process, of making these caricatures. Pretty awesome, but that's among the things that you can see in New York. But yeah, so when I talk about High Bridge Tower, it was participating in this program known as Open House New York, and that was actually this past weekend. Number two, so we covered High Bridge and the High Bridge Tower. Number two in the infrastructure here that you can still see, Hope Garden, the friendly garden on the hill, which is actually 459 West 152nd Street in Hamilton Heights. It's actually just across the street from the Dance Theater of Harlem. This is a community garden. It's currently closed. It has a nice, peaceful green space. There's no permanent structures of any kind of significant weight that can be built on this land, as the aqueduct piping runs beneath the ground over here. Aside from the community garden, there isn't any visual representation of the aqueduct, but it's interesting to know the locations of where the pipes run. And in this case, there are two buildings. It's actually that are to the left and right of of this land over here with the community garden. They actually are part of the same small condo building. So it's two buildings, both on the smaller side, but they're part of the same condo association. And that's right next to it. They're never going to be able to build anything over there. So it gives you nice tranquility. So you have the battlegrounds on one side, the Dance Theater of Harlem, and then you have these two condos separated by the aqueduct piping. So it's never going to be really truly built up over there. So really, like, if you're looking for a nice place to live, like, there's a condo right there associated with this. Number three, the Croton Aqueduct Gatehouse, now known as the Harlem Stage at 150 Convent Avenue. It's on the Manhattanville-Hamilton Heights border at 135th and Convent. And the Croton Aqueduct Gatehouse is on the U.S. National Register of Historic Places. It was built in 1884. It was decommissioned ultimately in 1984, so 100 years later. The below-grade valve chambers were filled and the building sat empty for nearly 2 decades. But between 2004 and 2006, the building oversaw adaptive reuse project. I love that. Converting the gatehouse into a theater space for Harlem Stage / Aaron Davis Hall, which is part of City College. The gatehouse at West 135th Street and Croton Avenue is the most impressive architectural feature of the new Croton Aqueduct located within the city limits. It was constructed to regulate the amount of water flowing from the masonry aqueduct pipes leading to the reservoir in Central Park and localities in northern Manhattan. And although it was built for utilitarian purposes, the gatehouse is a carefully designed structure erected during a period when buildings, even for the most functional spaces, were given articulated and expressive treatment. So that gatehouse is located on a raised site in an area that was sparsely settled in 1890. For this site, architect Frederick S. Cook designed a building with massiveness that belies its diminutive size. The building looms up like a medieval fortress and an appropriate symbol, since just as a fortress served physically to protect the population of a medieval city, this gatehouse is the symbolic protector of New York, for without an adequate supply of pure water, the modern city couldn't exist. And, I'm sure, people, that might know a little bit about old New York City history know that, there was all sorts of problems with our water supply before they came up with this. And there were outbreaks of cholera and, other diseases as a result of not having a good, clean drinking water supply.
Good thing we handled that.
Yeah, really important. So, although the gatehouse does, contains a complex series of technical features that originally received and distributed all the water conveyed to Manhattan via both the old and new Croton aqueducts, it's pretty awesome to kind of see like some of this still exists. It's located on an elevated site so that water could easily flow by force of gravity to destinations throughout the city without the necessary of construction of pump stations. The gatehouse was, in addition, excavated to a depth of 29 feet so that if necessary, a nearby distributing reservoir could be fully drained. The gatehouse, it was connected to the new aqueduct tunnel by a well located below the tower at the northeast corner of the building, and it descends 84 feet from the floor. So pretty deep. To withstand the water pressure, the floors are paved with 18-inch thick granite blocks laid on a concrete construction, and the walls are faced with 2-foot thick granite stones laid in regular courses on a backing of rubble masonry. So even though it wasn't publicly accessible, the interior of the gatehouse was given an ornamental finish reflecting the pride and care taken into designing this utilitarian structure. So for the exterior, Cook designed a building. He designed a building that had the solidarity of an impregnable medieval fortress. It designed Romanesque revival in style. The building is atypically picturesque with its octagonal tower. The gatehouse remains an important link in New York's water supply system. It's one of the tangible survivors of the pioneering water supply systems constructed during the 19th century, and it's a major symptom of the importance of a carefully planned water system to the growth and stability of New York City. So, from an adaptive reuse standpoint, the Harlem Stage website, to quote from there, in 1983, Harlem Stage, then named Aaron Davis Hall, was founded in part of the principle that artists of color, particularly black artists' voices, were censored, not treated equitably, not given resources, not provided the platforms that commensurate with their talents. In short, they were denied equal access. Our mission was to provide access, resources, and enable audiences to witness the visionary work of excellence by artists of color that examined and critiqued the world, our world. It was established as part of the City College of New York, Aaron Davis Hall, a performance complex housing the 750-seat Marian Anderson Theater, the 267-seat Black Box, and the 100-seat studio opens its doors. The performance complex inaugurates its first season with a gala presentation featuring Ella Fitzgerald, the American Symphony Orchestra, Peter Martins and Suzanne Farrell, Mikhail Baryshnikov, who I know which building he's in. He does live in...
He's still alive?
Yeah, he's still alive. He lives in Central Harlem.
Huh.
Yeah, and in a condo conversion building.
Didn't he date Sarah Jessica Parker for a little bit in Sex and the City? Not in real life, but character.
I know he was on the show. I don't know whether he dated her or not. I know I've seen some episodes, but it's been so many years.
Maybe he dated Samantha.
I honestly don't remember.
We'll get back to you.
I know he was definitely in the show. That much I do know. So yeah, obviously, but he is a Harlem resident, and he was actually part of, that opening performance. So that is the third of the visible components of the Croton Aqueduct and New York City aqueduct system. Fourth one, and this one's a little bit more in a little bit more visible space over here. The Croton Aqueduct pump house is in Morningside Heights, Amsterdam Avenue at 113th, and there's also one at 119th, constructed in 1870 to 1873. The first version of the Croton Aqueduct delivered water via a raised platform along Amsterdam Avenue. When the system was moved below ground, these pump houses powered the water flow through the underground pipes. Today, these pump houses are a New York City individual landmark. So there might be further additional sites further south that remain, but these are the remaining structures north of 110th Street from the original Croton Aqueduct system. Today, the pipes are much bigger and much deeper down, and the sites are protected as the pipeline still remains. So, just like one of those interesting hidden in plain sight type of things. But I love the fact that one of the original pump houses has now been turned into a performance space. And I know I've been in there many years ago, and actually you can rent it out for special events like weddings and bar mitzvahs and quinceañeras and anything else. So kind of a cool space to say, yeah, we're sitting in a old New York City water pump house station.
That's right.
So pretty cool space, and definitely unique. But this concludes our latest episode of Harlem Stories. Stay tuned for additional great episodes. We're bi-weekly, and we hope you stay tuned for all of our episodes, and have a great day.
Thanks for joining.